240,000 seeds. That is how many a single pigweed plant can drop in one summer, right there beside your tomatoes, while you are sitting on the porch with a cold drink thinking the lawn finally looks good. You mowed on Saturday, you watered, you felt that quiet little bit of pride, and then you walk out 3 days later and there it is. A fat, low, rubbery little mat creeping across the soil where nothing was the day before. That is purslane. Or that thin rope of green twisting up your fence like it owns the place. That is bindweed. And the guy who told you to grab a jug of weed killer off the shelf at the big box store, he sold you a temporary truce, not a victory. Here's the frustration nobody says out loud. You pull it, you spray it, you feel good for a week, and then it comes back thicker, faster, and in more places than before. Every single year, same weeds, same corner, same wasted Saturday. It is like the lawn is laughing at you. And most people make it worse without knowing it. They yank purslane out by hand and toss it on the soil. They snap bindweed off at the ground and call it done. They blast pigweed with a contact spray that browns the top and leaves the root alive. And nothing ever actually changes. The weeds win year after year, and the homeowner just gets tired. So here is what I'm going to show you. There are two completely different battles happening in your yard, and they need two completely different strategies. First, the spreading creepers, the purslane and the bindweed, the ones that regrow from a scrap. Second, the seed bombs, the pigweed family, the ones that win by sheer numbers. And then at the very end, I am going to give you the old Amish prevention method that this whole video was built around. The one thing that stops all three from ever taking your lawn again. And I am not going to name it yet, because once you hear it, you will understand why nobody in the garden aisle wants you to know it. But let me ask you something first, and be honest. You think pulling a weed out of the ground removes it, right? What if I told you that with two of these three, pulling is exactly how you plant next year's crop? Part one is purslane and bindweed, the creepers. And I am starting here because this is the version that breaks people emotionally. It is the one that feels personal. You see it. You remove it, it comes back in the same spot, and you start to wonder if something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You were just never told how these plants actually survive. Here is what you instinctively do. You see that thick, juicy purslane mat with the little teardrop leaves, and you grab it and rip it out. It feels great, it comes up easy. You toss it on the lawn or in a pile by the shed, and you move on. That feels logical. Pull the weed, weed is gone. But here is what is actually happening beneath your feet. Purslane is a succulent. Every stem and every leaf is packed with stored water and energy, like a little canteen. When you rip it out and leave it lying on the ground, it does not die. It uses that stored water to push out new roots from the broken stem nodes, and within 7 to 10 days, that scrap you tossed aside has rooted back into your soil as a brand new plant. On top of that, a mature purslane plant carries up to 200,000 seeds, and those seeds stay alive in your soil for 30 to 40 years waiting. So when you yank it and shake it over the bed, you are seeding the next generation. Bindweed is worse and meaner. That pretty little white trumpet flower, the one that looks almost like a tiny morning glory, has a root system that goes down 9 to 14 feet. 14 feet. When you grab the vine and pull, you snap it off somewhere near the surface, and you leave the entire root highway intact underground. And here is the cruel part. Every chunk of bindweed root as small as 2 inches can sprout a whole new plant. So when you rototill a bindweed patch to clean it up, you are not killing it. You are chopping one plant into 50 and burying every piece at the perfect depth to regrow. That is why it explodes after people till. So here is the reframe, and I want you to sit with it. With these two, pulling is planting, tearing is multiplying. The harder you fight them the wrong way, the stronger they come back. Now here is how you actually win. Simplest first. For purslane, the first method is timing plus removal done right. You get to it young before it flowers, because once those yellow flowers open, seeds are already forming even on a plant you pull. You take a flat hoe or a hand fork, you lift the whole mat in one piece on a hot, dry morning, and this is the part everyone skips. You do not leave it on the soil, and you do not put it in your compost. You bag it. A live purslane stem in your warm compost pile will just root and reseed and ride right back out into your garden next spring on your own shovel. Bagging it and binning it is a 30-second step that saves you the entire next season. The second method, a little more advanced, is to deny it light. Purslane seeds need sunlight and warm bare soil at around the 70 to 90 degree range to germinate. So after you clear a bed, you lay down 2 to 3 inches of mulch, wood chips or straw, or even a layer of cardboard underneath, and you cut the light off at the soil surface. No light, no germination. Those buried seeds just sit there dormant instead of carpeting your bed. I have seen a bed that grew a solid mat of purslane every July go completely clean the next year from nothing more than 3 inches of bark mulch. For bindweed, because you cannot dig out a 14-foot root, you starve it instead. This is the method that actually works. You let the vine grow out, you do not pull it, and then you treat the living leaves so the plant carries the kill down into that deep root itself. A targeted systemic application painted onto the foliage in late summer when the plant is naturally pulling energy down into its roots for winter, travels all the way down and kills the crown. Timing is everything. Spray bindweed in spring and the sap is flowing up, so you barely scratch it. Treat it in August or September when the flow reverses and goes down, and you reach the part that actually matters. If you want to stay completely chemical free, you smother it. You cover the entire patch with cardboard and a thick layer of mulch or a tarp, and you leave it blocked from light for an entire growing season, a full 12 to 18 months. The root cannot photosynthesize. It burns through its stored reserves trying to find light, and it finally starves out. It is slow, but it is total. And understand what is at stake if you keep getting this wrong. It is not just an ugly corner. Bindweed wraps around the stems of your vegetables and your young shrubs and physically chokes them, twisting tight and cutting off the flow until the plant strangles. Purslane forms a dense living mat that steals the water and nutrients from your seedlings before they ever get going. Get it wrong, and you are not just losing a weekend. You are losing the actual plants you paid for and waited months to grow. One universal prevention tip to close this out: never ever let either of these go to flower. The moment you see a bud, the clock has started. 5 minutes pulling a young plant beats 5 weekends fighting a seeded one. And look, if this is the kind of thing nobody ever tells you in the garden aisle, do me one favor and subscribe. That is the whole point of this channel. Plain, real answers about your lawn that the people selling you products will not give you. One tap, and then let me get straight back into it, because the next one is the weed that beats you by numbers. And if you want to go even deeper than what this channel can cover in a single video, I put together a full guide that lays out every one of these methods step by step, season by season, the way the Amish have handled lawns and soil for generations. It is called the Complete Amish Yard Field Edition, and it goes alongside the Amish Lawn Guide and the Amish Soil Guide as a complete system for anyone who is serious about never fighting the same weed twice. All three are available right now for $97, and the link is in the description below. If you have been fighting your yard for years and want the whole picture in one place, that is where to find it. Now back to the weed that beats you by numbers. Part 2 is a completely different enemy, and you cannot fight it the same way because pigweed does not win by being tough. It wins by being many. Here is the thesis. With the creepers, the plant is the problem. With pigweed, the seed is the problem, and that changes everything. The universal mistake people make with pigweed, reedroot, and the whole amaranth family is that they wait. They see a few small ones, they figure they will deal with it later, they let it get knee-high before they do anything, and here is the catastrophic consequence that takes the whole rest of the season to fix. A single pigweed plant left to mature throws between 100,000 and 240,000 seeds into your soil. Just one plant. And those seeds do not all sprout at once. That would be too kind. They stay viable in your soil for up to 40 years and germinate a little at a time, year after year, so one plant you ignored in July becomes a low-grade infestation you are still fighting a decade later. Even worse, some pigweed has grown resistant to the common over-the-counter sprays, so the guy who keeps blasting it with the same jug is breeding a tougher weed every season. You are not killing it, you are training it. So here is how you beat numbers. You attack the seed cycle, not the plant, and you do it in order. Method 1 is the cheapest and simplest thing on earth, and it is the one that works the best when you actually do it. You hoe shallow, and you hoe early on a dry, sunny day. Pigweed seedlings are weakest when they are tiny, under 2 inches tall, with their first true leaves. You run a sharp hoe through the top half-inch of soil, you slice the seedlings off at the surface, and on a hot, dry day they shrivel and die in hours because they cannot reroot from a cut stem the way purslane can. The trick is staying shallow. Every time you dig deep, you drag a fresh batch of buried seeds up into the light and germinate them. Most people, when they weed, dig down and turn the soil over and they think they are cleaning the bed. But actually, they are reloading it. Stay in that top half inch and you stop bringing the seed bank to the surface. Method 2 is mulch as a germination blocker. The same principle as before, but it matters even more here because of the seed numbers. Pigweed seed is tiny, and a tiny seed has almost no stored energy. It has to reach sunlight within a few days of sprouting or it dies. So you bury the soil under 2 to 3 inches of mulch, and that thin little seedling exhausts itself trying to climb through the dark and never makes it. One good mulch layer can cut your pigweed germination by 70 to 90%. That is not a tidy up. That is the single biggest lever you have, and it costs almost nothing if you use wood chips or straw. Method 3 is the one a professional reaches for when the bed is already loaded, and it is called a pre-emergent. This is the method most homeowners have never even heard of, and it is the difference between fighting weeds and preventing them. A pre-emergent does not kill a growing plant. It lays down a thin chemical barrier in the top layer of soil that stops seeds from successfully establishing a root as they germinate. You apply it before the seeds wake up. When soil temperatures are climbing toward 55 degrees in early spring, you water it in lightly so it forms that protective zone, and it holds for 6 to 8 weeks. There is a natural version too. Corn gluten meal, spread at about 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, works as a natural pre-emergent and feeds your lawn nitrogen at the same time. Because it is around 10% nitrogen by weight, it will not touch weeds that have already sprouted. So timing is the entire game. Get it down before the soil warms, and you stop 100,000 seeds from ever becoming your problem. Wait until you see green, and you have already missed the window for the year. Notice the climb there. Method 1 is your hands in a hoe and good timing. Method 2 is a wheelbarrow of mulch. Method 3 is the move that turns you from someone reacting to weeds into someone who simply does not get them. That is the ladder, and you can step onto it at whatever level your yard needs. Part 3, prevention. And this is the entire reason I made this video, the Amish method that handles all 3 of these weeds at once. And it is so simple and so old that the modern garden industry would rather sell you $40 of spray than tell you about it. Here it is. A thick, deep mulch of organic matter, renewed once a year, combined with a healthy, dense lawn that leaves the soil no bare ground to colonize. That is it. That is the secret. The Amish do not chase weeds with bottles. They deny weeds the one thing all 3 of these plants must have to start, and that thing is bare, sunlit, open soil. Here's why it works mechanically in one breath. Purslane seed, bindweed sprouts, and pigweed seed all need light and warm exposed dirt to get going, and a 3 to 4 inch blanket of wood chip mulch over your beds plus a thick stand of grass over your lawn physically blocks that light and keeps the soil cool. So the seeds and the root fragments simply never wake up. The tool is nothing fancy, arborist wood chips, which you can often get delivered free by the truckload from local tree crews, or straw, or even a base layer of plain cardboard with mulch on top. You spread it 3 to 4 inches deep across every bare patch in spring after the soil warms. You keep your grass mowed tall at 3 to 3.5 inches so the lawn itself shades out invaders, and you top the mulch up once each year as it breaks down. Do that, and you will save yourself the $40 to $60 a year on sprays, and far more valuable, the 10 to 15 Saturdays every summer you currently lose on your hands and knees fighting the same weeds in the same spots. So which one is for you? If you are dealing with creeping purslane and twisting bindweed in your beds and along your fences, your move is smother and starve, cardboard and deep mulch, and patience through one full season. If you are fighting pigweed and the amaranth family coming up by the hundreds in open soil, your move is a shallow hoe early plus a pre-emergent down before the soil hits 55 degrees in spring. And if you are honest and you just want to never have this conversation with yourself again, your move is the Amish way: mulch deep, mow tall, and never leave a square foot of bare ground for a weed to claim. Now, here is the new problem you are about to run into, because I would rather you hear it from me first. Once you lay down that thick layer of wood chip mulch and start watering a healthy bed, you are going to create the warm, damp, dark conditions that certain fungi absolutely love, and some of you are going to walk out one morning and find a bright orange or yellow blob spreading across your mulch that looks like something out of a horror film. That is slime mold, and it freaks people out every single time. So here is what I want you to do. If you start seeing strange growth on your fresh mulch, drop a comment below and just type the word mulch so I know to look for you. In the next video, I am going to show you exactly which mulch fungi are completely harmless and actually good for your soil, and which ones mean you have a real problem, and precisely how to fix it without ripping out everything you just laid down. Subscribe so that one lands in your feed, because if you mulch the way I just told you to, you are going to want it. Get the weeds gone first, then we keep your soil alive. And before you go, let me leave you with the one thing that separates the people who win this fight from the people who repeat it every single year. It is not the spray, it is not the tool, it is consistency at the right moment. Weeds do not beat you because they are strong, they beat you because they are patient, and most homeowners are not. You fight hard in June, you get tired in July, and you quit in August, right when bindweed and pigweed are pouring their energy and their seeds back into the soil for next year. They are playing the long game. You have to play it too. So mark 2 dates on your calendar right now, before you forget. Early spring, when the soil is climbing toward 55 degrees, that is your pre-emergent and your first mulch top-up. Late summer, August into September, that is when you starve the bindweed by treating the leaves while the sap runs down. 2 appointments a year, that is the whole job. Miss them, and you are back on your knees every weekend. Keep them, and the weeds simply stop showing up, because you took away the bare soil, the light, and the timing they depend on. Do that for 1 full season, and next summer, yee!